Hey, what's up, babies? Welcome to another episode of Get Close. I am your co-host, Gio.
And I'm B-A-R-T, Barquan.
Oh, you're like your own cheerleader. Okay, and I have my baby girl here, someone that I absolutely adore and like instantly connected with. My baby, Bonnie, the best Schroeder. Damn, did I say that wrong?
Schroeder. You kind of skipped the R, but who needs it?
And I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely smitten by you.
Oh, come on.
I absolutely adore you. You came into my life at a point where I was just like lost. So it was really dope to meet you in that phase because you're just such a dope, powerful babe. For those of you that are not familiar with who she is, she's an awesome, outstanding athlete. She's a coach. I know you hate this word, but you are definitely an influencer, and an influencer in the new sense, where you're influencing people to do very empowering things.
I love
Not
that.
influencing for the sake of like, look at how cool my life is.
I think she's actually a outfluencer.
Oh.
Tell me more about
Please
that
explain.
term.
So I think like since getting to know you, I think it's hard to get a grasp of you from your Instagram, because I think who you really are is so much positivity and empathy.
Yes.
And like just such this warm vibe that I think Instagram has a very like, or just regular social media has a very controlled and put in a box way of putting things out
Yeah.
there. So my friendship with you, I feel that warmth on the outside of Instagram. So I call it outfluencer.
Yeah, maybe it's because
I love that
because
term.
I know her.
I'm locking that away 'cause I love
Affluence,
that.
He's a fucking stud when it comes to creating like concepts and ideas and new words.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Because some of my favorite people, they're just like, check out my shoes, right? And it's like, it's really cool. But then when you start talking to them in the DMs or you meet them in real life, you're like, whoa, there's so much more. Whereas some people are exactly the same as what they post.
Right.
I've never heard him talk about anyone like that.
Oh my God.
You're so
You
rad.
can't make me cry in the first 5
Okay,
minutes.
sorry, no.
I imagine there will be tears at some point.
Yeah,
But you
I
can't
mean,
do it right now, Bar. I love
hope
that though. I love that.
Okay,
so much.
one super important thing that I do want to bring up is that I don't know if you identify as this or not, but you are definitely a BRCA1 advocate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. BRCA. You can just say BRCA.
BRCA.
Yep.
What the hell is that?
Right. I had never heard of it. So we can just start jumping right into it. We can talk about that.
What's
Yeah.
BRCA?
Let's dive into the heaviest thing in my
Ever.
life.
Ever.
Right now, right away. So this year has been a monumental, like life-changing year for me. And it all goes back to about 7 years ago, I think. I was maybe 2016. I don't know. Both my parents had cancer at the time. My mom was dealing with breast cancer and my dad had prostate cancer that he had surgery for.
At the same time.
At the same time. And my parents are divorced, so living their separate lives, doing their things, very happy with their partners. But they were, both suffering at the same time and going through this. And my mom, unfortunately, has been dealing with it for 11 years now. But at the time, they were both sick, both undergoing some type of treatment. Wow. And my sister is actually a geneticist. So she's a doctor and actually deals in cancer research. So she's the older sister. She's very responsible, took a more classic life path than I did.
Yeah.
Great older sister, love her to death. And she suggested that we get tested to see if there were any genetic issues that we had, because
That could be
if you've got two
passed down.
parents, the
the
chances of this are high, right?
Yep.
So I'm however old, I don't know, 26, 27, and healthy and having a great time and living my life and doing whatever I wanted. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is a waste of time. Like, this is a bit of a waste of time, waste of energy. Like, this is not going to be me. And so we went and got our tests, and I think they can do a mouth swab or a blood draw. We did a blood draw, and my sister was doing this before she had kids because it was kind of her thing to do. Like, if I'm positive, I'm not procreating, because the chances of this getting passed down. So for her, this was like a thing I need to do before I decide to become a parent, which is responsible, right?
Yeah, super.
But also if she
Right.
marries someone that's like really different, can't that like you kind of dilute the amount of
Sure. Yeah. So we went and got the tests. She was negative, thank God, because she had wanted kids, and I was positive. So I was positive for the BRCA1 gene mutation, which basically means that I have a deletion in my genetic coding. So I'm actually missing something that predisposes me to breast and ovarian cancer. Oh, shit. And so it's not a like, you're 100% gonna get this. It's like your chances are pretty uncomfortably fucking high. Can I curse here?
Yeah.
Okay. Fucking yeah.
Kind of figured.
Pussy, dick, all of that.
So what that meant for me was that over time, my risk for breast cancer was going to be about 85% and ovarian about 55.
Holy fuck. You're not leaving this. You're not escaping it.
Right. So what they recommend for you with this type of diagnosis is to have your preventative surgeries before the age of 35, because that's when your hormones really start shifting.
I see.
And you see that shift with estrogen and testosterone and all those things, right? So breast cancer being a much higher risk, they suggest that, a preventative mastectomy is the best way to go. Oof. So you're just removing all the breast tissue that they possibly can.
All mammary glands.
Everything.
I see.
Everything. So they're just leaving.
But not muscle, right? Not the muscle behind it?
No. So just these, so it's like muscle, breast tissue, fat, glands, all that in your skin, right? So it's that in between breast layer, right? It's just essentially fat. So they recommend doing that before you're 35. So that's a diagnosis that I got when I was, 26, 27.
How did that hit you?
Yeah. And what phase in your life are you here? Like, are you at a point where you're like, where your sister was, where it's like, I do want to have kids, I do want this?
No,
or?
I've never felt that. I've never felt that like maternal calling. So,
which is very ironic, and I'll tap into that later, but
because I am a very like caring and nurturing person, but not in that way.
Yeah.
So how did it feel?
I'm just trying to relate because as a dude, your balls are kind of your identity, right?
Well, and guys can still have BRCA mutations.
I see.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm getting to is if a doctor told me that he needs to chop my balls off, I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, as a chick, are these your identity? And are you like, oh my God, you're going to cut my titties off?
Right. Well, I was very fortunate in a lot of ways. One, that like I never wanted kids.
Okay.
So I never had to think about like, okay, I need to freeze my eggs or, anything weird down that route. Like I never had to think about passing that gene on because it was never a thought. Like I never wanted that. But when I was first diagnosed, I was pissed. I was mad. And like the anger, I think, has kind of
like a why me, not my older sister type of thing.
Well, not even necessarily why not her, but just a why me. And it's one of those weird things where like there's no one to be mad at. So there's nowhere to really put that anger and that frustration because my parents didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they were like, this one.
Right. This is just like the cards I was dealt. Like this is just what the universe gave me to deal with. But yeah, when I was diagnosed, I kind of felt like it was a bit of a death sentence. In that time in my life, I was training people part-time in the gym. I was still working like my 9-to-5 corporate job. And I think probably a couple months after getting diagnosed and really, really coming like face to face with my mortality, I left that job. Because
what year is this that you said 2016?
Yeah, 2016, I think.
Is it because you're like, well, the clock's ticking. I better do something.
And I really felt that. I really felt that. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to die soon. But I felt like just like mortality is real. Like this is happening. We're all dying. And in that moment, it was just made really, really brutally clear to me. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wasting my time in this job that I don't really give a shit about? It's not fulfilling. I'm not passionate about it. What am I doing?
We all said the same, literally 3 people.
I was working for limited brands. So they own retail companies like Express, Victoria's Secret. So I was a brand delivery and operations manager for Victoria's Secret.
What does that mean?
So I was going around from store to store helping with store visuals. Basically, I would come in and tell you if things are done correctly or set up correctly or different ways to have store displays.
Yes.
Yes.
That's so cool.
So having,
that's fun.
Yeah. It was fun. Parts of it were fun. But I struggled with just like feeling fulfilled, like I was making a difference. Like I'm like,
I see.
you know,
How did you get into that job? That's not something they tell you like in high school
no,
or college.
I started working for limited brands part-time when I was in college, just like working maybe 10, 15 hours a week in between like track practices.
Like retail?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's considered like a corporate job, right? Like how do you make that crossover?
Good. I just kind of worked my way up in the company.
I see.
And that's where I ended at, 26, 27 was in this brand delivery and operations position.
Yeah.
And just feeling like I wasn't making a difference. I wasn't super passionate about what I was doing. I was really leaning in towards, training people in the gym. That's what I was doing full time. And at one point I'm like, fuck this. Fuck working for someone else's goals. Fuck coming to this place that I'm dreading every day. Like that's not a life.
Yeah.
And I left that and focused coaching 100% full time in the gym and building up my own business that way. But getting that diagnosis was really the catalyst for leaving and getting the courage to leave and being like, okay, motherfuckers, TikTok. Like, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my days.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people would have buckled and they would have gone into depression, into a dark place. And now they don't want to go to work. And like, I mean, it could have shifted in such a different route.
Yeah. And I never felt like depressed. I never felt that way about it. I think there was more anger and more denial as far as stages of grief. Or
did you get a second opinion? Were you like, I don't trust this motherfucker. I need to get a second opinion.
I did not.
Fuck this guy.
I was at the University of Iowa cancer geneticist department,
Like
and they're very,
top-notch.
very, very good place there.
I
Yeah,
see.
my sister wouldn't have let us go anywhere else. Like
Okay.
she was on it. So then after the diagnosis, they tell you eventually best route is to have these surgeries, a mastectomy, and then an oophorectomy, which is your ovaries and tubes taken out.
Did you get the oofers too?
Not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Not done yet. So I still have 2 more surgeries in my future, at least. And if I want to do anything else up here, like get some big cartoon titties.
Yeah, let's
someday.
go. Fucking Pamela Anderson, that bitch.
So what they recommend is like a treatment protocol is mammograms, chest MRIs, and transvaginal ultrasounds every 3 to 6 months. So I was doing all that for 6-7 years
Whoa.
before I decided to have my surgeries. So it's a lot. It's getting really comfortable, legs splayed open while there's multiple doctors taking a look at you with a
shit.
camera inside of you, checking out your ovaries. It's kind of cool to see on a screen, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just to keep tabs on where everything's at.
Yes, yeah. So just like an ultrasound that they do on a pregnant belly.
Yeah.
But they're doing it on like this rod.
It's like a wand. Yeah,
this
I had
wand
that.
that goes up inside of you, and they move
saw
it to
that?
the right. They move it to the left, and they check both
Does it
your
feel
ovaries.
good if you wanted to get into the mood?
No,
No.
never. It's cold.
See, that's how
No.
dudes are. Dudes are like,
Well,
oh, you wanna put like a rubber thing around my wee wee? Go ahead.
No,
Sure.
bullshit. They tell you to cough and they grab your balls and shit. That doesn't feel good because they try not to do it in a sexual way. They try to
Yeah,
like,
it's
really
so
go like,
it's it's in that sterile doctor setting. It's
Yeah.
so
Cold.
unsexual, and then they've got this thing pressing in you, and then they'll press right here, so it's
Yeah.
just uncomfortable pressure.
Yeah.
Right. But
But
they
if
do
you
give you like a
really
warm
use your
gel.
imagination.
They put like a warm gel
I
on
didn't
it.
get no warm gel. I got some
well,
cold ass.
See, if I got a warm gel,
I mean,
bullshit.
thank God they do that. They're trying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're
yeah.
trying. But it's kind of cool to lay back on the screen and be like, there's my ovaries, there's my uterus. It's like not that big, not as big as you'd think.
Hey, you thought you had a big pussy?
I mean, no, your actual uterus.
I know. I just wanted to say pussy.
Oh well. And as someone that's never had kids, it's just a little guy. It's just a little guy just chilling in there.
Hey, whoa. I don't have a big pussy, all right?
Well, listen, those things, it's amazing. But yeah, so that's the treatment kind of protocol that I did for years and years and years.
What made you do it for 6-7 years?
I just never felt
Was it
ready
the
for
denial?
surgery.
Was it
Part
the
of
denial
it.
part?
Part of it. Yeah, part of it. There was a couple months there where like I put off just going because I just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like I would very much just compartmentalize and kind of just put that down.
Yeah.
Put that to the side. It's an ugly thing I don't want to look at right now.
Yeah, it's too real. It's now it's
way
right
too
there.
fucking real. And I just never felt ready for the surgeries. And so
What did you think worst case scenario was?
worst case scenario was that I go to one of these appointments and I already have cancer.
Oh, got it.
Like I had a biopsy once where I had found a little lump in my right breast, like right about here. And I was like, okay, responsible thing to do. Let's go get it checked out. So they did a mammogram. They did an ultrasound.
Like you found it yourself, like a little lump? Oh,
Yeah, and not very big. It kind of just felt like a little, like one of these, like a little bead.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
like a little
pretty
bead.
hard.
And I went in and they did all that. And they're like, okay, like considering your situation, let's do a biopsy. And fuck biopsies.
What's up with that? Tell
It's
me.
basically like a staple gun to your chest because they're taking a core sample.
yeah, so
right?
they got
So
to
they need to-
penetrate and then take something out.
And it's like, boom. And like you're awake, but you're numb. And
Okay.
like they're kind of like, I've got like white, sterile paper everywhere. And it's just this breast exposed. And I'm just bleeding everywhere. And it's crazy because you can't feel anything. And you're looking and I'm just like, that's a lot of blood.
That's incredible.
Like this should hurt. And it does afterwards.
Whoa.
But yeah, I had one biopsy done. And then in 2020, I had found maybe 2 or 3 other lumps.
Oh, damn.
And that was 2020, right? So it was hard to get into
mid-COVID.
the doctor.
Yeah.
It's mid-COVID. They're not taking
You're
anything
not a
that
priority
isn't an
to them.
emergency.
Yeah.
So I had to fight to get in and
What did you do to fight?
lie.
Oh,
Like tell them that things were worse than they were.
nice.
Yeah.
Was that?
Pretty cool healthcare system we have.
I know horror.
Yeah. Oh, I had to lie.
Was that your sister like going like, no, be persistent, do it, or was it just?
No, that was me. That was
Stud.
me. Yeah.
I
And
love
like,
it.
you get to that point where you realize that, no one really has my back. I have to be my own advocate.
Yeah.
Because right
Like-
now the
Well, and
priority
they don't
is
know really.
yeah. Because right now the priority is COVID, and then
Right.
if you're not their priority, you're like, hey, I got 2 lumps.
Yeah.
Could turn into 3, could turn into 4. I might not die of COVID, but I'm gonna die of cancer. So I need to
Right.
get my ass in
Yeah.
there somehow.
Like I'm taking this shit super seriously and I need you to also.
Yeah.
Like this is my own life. And if you aren't aggressive about taking care of it, they're not going to be. You
During
know?
this whole time, you're an athlete, right?
Yes.
So as an athlete, knowing that there's like this, did you feel like 100% healthy? Like you,
Yes.
or did you feel like you're compromised as an athlete? Did it become a mental crutch?
I never felt compromised as an athlete, but I've always felt a weight on me. And maybe not even a weight, but like this dark cloud looming behind me. Like
Right.
someday
For
you're
sure.
going to have this to deal with.
For sure.
And it's a big, heavy, scary thing. And it was like just kind of this just thing that's always there, like always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And you can't ever forget about it.
Yeah.
So, but I never felt compromised as an athlete. No, I wouldn't say that. But 2020 sucked because I had all these scares. And I'm like, fuck this. Fuck.
Besides the 3 lumps, what else?
That's
even
what
though
I
that's
meant.
huge.
That's
Okay,
what I
okay,
meant.
okay.
That's what I meant. Like finding them, and then just the what if this is it? Like because
Yeah.
my aunt. So back up a second.
Okay.
The gene is actually from my dad's side of the family, which is crazy because my mom does have breast cancer. But on my father's side, his mom, his older sister, him, and his younger sister have all had cancer. So it's just bop, 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 bop.
Oh,
Right on down the line.
Wow.
And my youngest aunt got breast cancer when she was 30. And so for me, 30 was always like that age where I'm like, okay, I gotta get my shit together. Gotta get my
Yeah.
shit
This is
together.
2020 is year 30.
No, I was 32.
Okay.
So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
TikTok, pitter patter, let's go. But so I had all those scares and I'm like, fuck this, fuck living in fear and being so afraid every time I find something that isn't quite right. And, everything that I had checked out had been okay. Thank God. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm at a good place mentally, emotionally, financially. I'm in a stable relationship with a loving partner that has had experiences with surgeries and can support me.
She's talking about Matt Vincent. We also have him on
he's
the podcast. Check it out, please.
He's had a few. But just felt like I was finally in a place where I could handle it, in a good place. And when you know you have a surgery coming, you can buy insurance accordingly. So I bought like better health insurance because I knew I was going to schedule it for 2021. And so, what is it, November? In May of this year, I had my surgery. I saw you guys 2 weeks later.
Yeah, with some amazing boobs. So
Yes.
what was that like?
So the whole surgery process was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I've never had a major surgery before. And this is like a major one to start off with. The first,
What makes it major? Like, are you out for like, I don't know, 5 hours
I think
or
I was
something?
out for like 2.5 or 3.
Oh shit.
But I
Well,
mean,
it's
I'm
major because she's
I'm
removing
cut
an entire,
completely open.
Yeah, she's removing body parts.
yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
don't know what the definition of major is.
I
Well,
see.
I guess
I don't know if like chopping off your leg is major or
That's
like
major.
that's probably major, but like, let's just say a wisdom tooth, you're out, but I wouldn't call that major.
that's not major.
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was cut open here underneath, and then what they basically do is flip
Oh
you up
my God.
and take out all the breast tissue that they possibly can, that they can see.
Holy shit.
And I chose to go, there's lots of ways you can do this, and we can dive into that.
Why did they make us choose shit like that? I'm like,
Well-
I don't know. You know more. You tell
Right,
me what
right.
to do.
I can't believe that took only 2.5 hours.
There's not a lot of breast tissue to remove.
Oh, I just feel like
Wah.
I feel like it would just take, I don't know, it'd take me like at least 5 hours.
So, okay,
Can't even
so
build an IKEA desk in 2 hours.
that's true. That's a good point. Mastectomy, what? But so there's actually 2 doctors working on you at the same time. So I went direct to implant. So I chose to have a mastectomy and a reconstruction. And I was a good candidate to go direct to implant because I was healthy enough. They thought there was enough room there that they could put a cute little implant in, right? So the surgeon who performs the mastectomy is doing that on this side, cleans me out, and then he moves to the other side, and my plastic surgery surgeon comes in to this side,
How efficient.
Wow.
pops in the little implant, gets it all adjusted.
sick.
I also have cadaver tissue in there, like tendons and ligaments from a cadaver,
Why do you have that
yeah.
for?
to help hold them in place,
Oh,
as there's none of me in there to help hold it
I
in place.
see.
That I've got cadaver parts in there too, like
That's crazy.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy
That
when
is
you
nuts.
think about it.
They're really not yours, and then they're really not yours.
They're really not mine.
And there's someone else's a little bit.
And
A little
who
bit.
knows who that is?
Yeah.
Right? I could have these like kind of haunted titties.
You know,
crazy.
dude. There's times where I'm like, I don't want to go second hand shopping, just because I'm like, I don't know what spirit's clinging on to this fucking piece of garment or furniture, and you got dead person body. in
Whatever
here.
spirits are clinging on to there,
They're
like,
good ones?
seems to be dope.
Tight.
So I think we're all right.
All right, good.
But that's how they do it. So it's pretty efficient. So it doesn't take 5 hours like an IKEA desk. And then they stitch you up. And so my scars are here. And I chose to go over the muscle. I feel like we were just talking about this
Yeah.
the other morning in the gym. But
'Cause I saw her repping 135 on the Larson. I'm like, what the fuck? Didn't you just have boob surgery?
yeah.
She's like, yeah, like 6 months ago. And I'm like, that's fucking fast recovery.
Yeah.
Are you under? muscle?
I don't know. I think I'm over.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm over.
So over, typically the recovery time's a little bit quicker because they aren't damaging the muscle.
Yeah.
okay.
So it's muscle, implant, skin,
Yeah.
right? With just a normal breast augmentation, they kind of create a pocket for the implant to go into. Me, all that tissue is removed, so like the whole thing is a pocket. So it's just skin implant. But yeah, that's the procedure, and I think probably like the 4 days after that were the toughest. I felt like I had like a plate on my back, like just a weight on my back.
Because
It
of the
was
weight
so
pulling you down.
uncomfortable. No, not even because of size. I don't know if it was just like positioning or what, because you have to sleep on your back for so like weeks and weeks. But my back was just so uncomfortable, and that was the worst part. But 4 days were kind of tricky, and then the 5th day I
You're
woke
like
up.
draining stuff out and like.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that they do that they don't do for breast augmentations.
Yeah,
I
I
did
didn't have
have
that.
drains, so I had little incisions on my side, and I had drains.
What's that for?
To help drain all the fluid that builds up. So I have drains into these little I don't know.
Maracas.
Little maracas. Little plastic things that catch it.
Yeah.
And you have to empty them like twice a day and record how much
Did you try smelling
you're
it?
draining. No, I didn't. Because
You're
it doesn't
weird.
it doesn't look like something you want to smell.
Everything that comes out of me, I gotta at least smell it a little bit just so I have to see like what I'm losing.
He has some
That's-
gnarly shit come out of him, man. I've seen some black shit come out of. So he couldn't hear. Okay, this is a tradition, and we'll go back. Sorry, but every time we go to Hawaii, every fucking time we go to Hawaii, all of a sudden he can't hear out of one ear. So this is tradition
Because
every
I'm
single year.
snorkeling like 5 times the amount anyone else is.
So then we have to go to the drugstore, get the ear cleaning spray bottle type thingy. Then this black
Is it like a
thing,
suction?
It's like a spray. Like it creates like a, what is that? Like
Tornado?
yeah,
A
like
whirlpool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it
whirlpool.
like
A little tornado
Yeah.
in your ear.
yeah. So then it pulls out this black thing, and he always wants me to see it.
Ugh.
And then he was like, he smelled it. Oh,
You don't.
Is it both ears or is it always one ear?
It's usually
every
one.
time?
It's usually one.
Are you getting bloody noses too?
That's always.
Just constant.
yeah, a bunch of shit's coming out.
Like when he
all the
popped
time.
up out of the lake in Utah and just, I'm like, what happened to you down there?
Yeah,
Did you meet a sea
bloody-
creature and like get in a fight? What happened?
There's been times where I'm snorkeling and like I'm going really deep, and as I'm holding my breath, and there's a lot of pressure like this.
Okay.
And I'm looking around at coral, and I see like a red cloud come out. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Wow.
So I know I got to get out of the water now.
And it's just every time. And Taika gets
Yeah, he
these little
does
nosebleeds too.
So they both walk around with like tissue in their
It's
nose.
so funny and all.
So you didn't smell the stuff that's
I didn't
drained.
smell anything
Lost
that was
opportunity.
draining out of my body. And if you've seen the pictures, I had like these crazy, they looked like alien titties on me for a while. They were like vacuum sealed purple wound vacs.
Yeah.
And like legit vacuum sealed, like those meals that showed up, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just,
It's on you. You can't even pull it off.
no. So I didn't see them. I didn't see my boobs for the first week, right? So on day 5, I woke up feeling pretty good, took a little walk, whatever. Day 6,
So wait, at this point though, are you already relieved? Are you just like,
yes,
like
yes.
I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
any of this shit? Cool.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I never have to have another mammogram again. 'Cause
Good.
Fuck those.
Why? Because they're smashing your tit,
It's
right?
so uncomfortable. I feel like no one tells you how painful they are. They suck.
yeah, I've never heard that.
Is it a girl
suck.
doctor or a guy doctor that does it?
I've only had women, but like it makes your
Why are they
boob
pressing so
a
hard?
pancake.
Because they're
and like,
taking.
Oh, because they have to.
Yeah.
yeah, because
I
that's
see.
how they have to get the images.
I thought
I'm
it was
sure
just-
it was a man that invented the whole
Right.
device.
They didn't fucking stand
Yeah,
it.
that's what I thought.
Always make sure I take Tylenol before going.
Wow.
Good tip.
wow.
I've never had one.
Yeah, and I don't know how it works with implants if they just do ultrasounds instead, but I never have to do them again, which is great. But so day 5, woke up feeling pretty good, took a walk. So right now the only anxiety is, okay, I'm waiting on my pathology report because they took all this tissue and they need to test it, make sure that's good. And then the other, kind of vain anxiety is, what am I going to look like?
Absolutely. What if they're lopsided?
Because
what
the
if they're
other
not
thing is, I told the doctors, like, just make me as big as you can without doing the expanders because I didn't want to fuck with those.
What's an expander?
So expander is basically a balloon that goes into you and they keep it pumped up until it's big enough for the size implant that you want.
Oh, I see.
So you can have those in from anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. And then you have to go back and
Not
get your
down.
final implant, and then there's a recovery from that.
I see.
Not
So
down.
your recovery time can be gnarly, right? So, yeah, there's the concern about the pathology report. There's the concern about how am I going to look? Because I haven't seen them. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, they feel bigger. I also know I'm super swollen and all that.
That's very honest of you to admit that. A lot of people wouldn't.
What part?
That you're like the vanity part of it.
Oh, but that's such an important part.
Yeah,
for
but no
women.
one really would say that.
Yeah.
That's tight. I
But
love
also,
it.
if you paid for it, you want something good.
Well, and and that's one of those things like with breast augmentation, like you're picking your size, you're
Yeah.
figuring it out with a doctor. But me, I'm just like, okay, we'll see what I wake up with.
Yeah.
Like you're fully trusting
Oh, I see.
that,
Yeah,
it's
It's their
going to be
judgment.
okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, just so you know, like there is a chance that we get in there and things don't look good and we can't give you implants.
Ooh.
So that's another thing.
So you won't even know until you wake
just
up.
don't know. You're kind of at the mercy to the doctors and whatever they see in there. So day 6, I get an email and it's like, your pathology report is back. You can go read it in your chart, whatever, go log in. And so I don't think I told you this part. And so I'm scrolling through and it's like pathology came back negative. I'm like, oh, now I can finally let go of that piece.
Yes.
I can breathe. Like the really hard part is done. And I'm scrolling and I'm reading it and it's medical jargon. So I'm kind of understanding, kind of not. They said they'd also call me that day to explain. And I'm going through the specimens, right? Like what they took. And under the specimens, it says right nipple, left nipple.
What?
No.
And I'm like, I thought we were doing a nipple sparing mastectomy because I don't have cancer, so they should be able to leave those. But I'm gonna make a phone call.
Right, because you can't even check it at this point.
I don't
because it's
know
vacuum
if I have
sealed.
nipples. Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Exactly. So that was a really weird.
Nipple specimen means they take the whole thing or just a
She
piece
wasn't
of it?
sure.
I wasn't sure.
At this point, she's not sure. She's
I didn't know, but
she's
that's
just
what it
hoping.
says.
That's crazy.
Under specimens, it just says right nipple,
Did you
left
just
nipple.
picture your boobs like
a
nippleless?
mannequin?
Like Barbie, right? So I'm like, okay,
Whoa.
I need to wrap my
Wait,
brain
did you
around
like
that.
your nipples before this happened?
Yo, my titties were so good before.
Okay, so then
I
you're
loved
really
my
going to be sad.
boobs
Okay,
before.
I got it.
Like super cute, super symmetrical, super sensitive, killer titties.
Yeah,
okay?
I saw them. They were great.
Great. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, if they're gone, that's fine. And I'm like already trying to like wrap my brain around it and like come to terms with being nippleless and just kind of this Barbie look.
You're just going to have an ass chest.
And it's tight. Now you can walk around shirtless, not offending anybody
Right.
because there's no
Heaven
nipple.
forbid.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, since I get my wound vax, my drains out and all that off tomorrow, I'm going to make a phone call just so I'm not surprised. And I call the doctors and I'm like, I'm reading through my pathology report and under specimens, it says right nipple, left nipple. Do I still have nipples? And I'm like,
get to the point.
Really strange question. I never thought I'd have to ask, right? But I'd just like to know before I get in tomorrow and they take all the dressings off. And they're like, oh, everything went according to plan. You're fine.
Yay!
What does that mean?
It means I still have nipples.
Oh, okay.
They're
'Cause I was like,
still there.
That's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, I still have nipples. So I was like, okay, great. Another weight off my shoulder. Like, this is good. This is good.
Well,
And
is the
then-
right nipple on the right boob? Or
Well,
is
we
it-
don't
do they-
Imagine
do they
this guy,
switch
the
nipples?
doctor got
I
bored.
don't know. And honestly, I probably couldn't even tell you, right? Like, they're there. That's all that matters.
Yep. Thank you to my favorite, Best Fiends, my source of happiness when I finally have my me time. It is a game that is just so dang cute. Okay, so it's a game that you play on your phone. You do not need internet access. You could be on airplane mode and you're still going to be able to play this game. Basic premise here is you collect bug friends. The only way you can get bug friends or collect these cute little creepy looking bugs is by advancing to different levels. But the way you advance is you're trying to protect your garden from these nasty, nasty, disgusting, yucky slugs that keep these, or at least trying to destroy this garden. Aha, now this is where the bugs come in. The bugs have different powers and they use them against these nasty bugs to save our beautiful garden. What I love about it is not only is it entertaining, it's challenging, but the visuals are just so dang cute. You never see the same landscape more than once. There's different levels. Some of them are sunny, some of them are snowy, some of them are in the jungle, some of them are in the desert. It's just so vibrant, so happy. It really does keep me in my happy place. So thank you to Best Fiends. Don't miss out if you want a good old challenging, fun time. And it's really fun for the whole family. Taika loves this. Download Best Fiends for free today at the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's Best Fiends. Think of it as friends, but without the R. Best Fiends.
So went in on day 7 to get my drains out, my wound vax off, and like I'm swollen and I feel huge, and I'm like, oh my god,
It was
like,
overwhelming.
whose chest? And I think you probably saw him a couple days later. I think I sent a
absolutely
video,
did. Yep.
and I'm like, oh my god, Drew, look at these titties. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, they were facing in different directions. They were like really up here.
They were really high. They were kind of just like lumpy and kind of like misshapen, and they had been vacuum sealed, so they were kind of just like trying to
And it's
get a
new
breath
skin.
of fresh air.
Yeah, it's new skin that hasn't been taut a little bit.
Right,
I mean,
so-
that is taut that hasn't been stretched.
Yes, incredibly tight, incredibly high, all that.
Which is what happens
then-
when you get breast augmentation. They eventually
Yes.
drop.
Yes, yeah.
So that's a normal thing.
Yes, and I feel like they sit much more naturally now. But on day 9, I had a good solid cry because I just wasn't happy with how they looked.
Oh no.
And Matt's like, hang on, are you still taking painkillers? I was like, yeah. And he's like, we're done with those. He's like,
Yeah.
back to weed tomorrow.
What was his
Because
reasoning?
I was just emotional for no reason, really. Like everything was fine. And I think he had seen me topless and he didn't have, oh my God, you look great
Oh.
reaction. He was like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're fine. Like everything's going to be fine. And I'm just like, You don't love them? You know, like I really needed that validation because
Yeah.
I was just in such a sensitive spot.
He was probably just
Yeah.
worrying from like a health point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, they looked really weird then. So like, but I was crying and he's just like, hang on, how long have you been taking the hydrocodone? He's like, 9 days. He's like, that's good. Let's get off that. And me having no experience with painkillers or pain pills at all like that, I was like, okay, that's sure. And then looking back, I'm like, man, that week I was so hazy and just foggy and like mental clarity was not there. Like you could say something to me and I'd be looking at you and I'd be like, what? Like I wouldn't like digest anything you were saying.
Yeah.
So those were not cool to be on for a week. Yeah, and then
why
I
the weed?
saw you guys on like day 12 or
Yeah.
day 13 in Utah.
Yeah. Why did he say get back on weed?
Just to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it was just definitely like an emotional roller coaster, and the mental fogginess was the worst part. Like couldn't even really have a conversation that well. So then got back to smoking like nightly, which we usually do to sleep well. And then saw you guys a couple days later.
What a stud. I love the fact that you were like, whew, that's it. I'm taking this shit. I'm going to own it. And I'm just going to keep fucking moving forward.
Yeah.
That's scary, man.
And for me, like the big thing, I announced, that I was going to have surgery, and
Online.
I had never, yes, online on my Instagram. And I had never been vocal about it before. And I think that was what was also keeping me in denial, was not talking about it.
Yeah, it's not that real.
And not being open about it. Yeah, because when you say it, when you speak it out into the universe,
It's the truth.
It's reality.
Yeah.
This is your reality. And
What made you talk about it?
when I decided to have surgery, when I actually had a date.
But you could have just had the surgery and still not talk about it.
It's
but
true.
Why? Why share
That's
it?
true. I decided I wanted to be an advocate for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, there's a lot of other women out there that are dealing with this, and men too. Men can obviously carry the mutations. And I'm like, man, I'm in such a unique position where I have a platform. I have a voice. I have people that listen and can care what I say. And I'm also an athlete. So like this puts me in a unique position to talk about lots of different parts of this process and, my feelings throughout it, and, getting back to lifting and returning to that identity as an athlete. And I don't look at the BRCA piece as my whole identity, but nor do I look at being an athlete as my whole identity anymore either, So I think that really being more open and communicating with others about it has helped me a ton. Like, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, there's a bunch of people out there that can relate. Oh, by me sharing, this person is going to get tested next week because they have cancer in their family. And that's the message that like I really try to hit home on my Instagram, is that, doctors work for us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that. And I've had women tell me like, my doctor says I don't need to get tested until I'm 35. I'm like, fuck that. Find a new doctor. Get help. Because that's not acceptable.
Yeah. So you're saying your doctor should always try to really encourage whatever curiosity you have.
Absolutely.
Got it.
100%.
I also think, like GSP, one of my favorite MMA fighters, I think he said it best too. I think a lot of people, they put the knowledge and expertise and decision-making in the authority.
Yeah.
But GSP, what he says, he goes, you have to be your first MMA coach.
Yeah.
You're the first MMA coach. And yes, you have a head MMA coach, but you need to know what you want to get out of it. So you pick the right one, and you're hiring the right one. And I think that applies to everything else. Like you have to be your own mechanic first, rather than just going to a random shop and then they mess up your car and you blame it on them. It's like, no, you're your first mechanic. Did you do your due diligence? And I think you have to be your own first doctor before you hire a doctor.
Yeah. And that's what I'll say too. Be your own advocate.
Yeah.
And it's such a bummer hearing those stories about people that were denied testing, or like, no, you don't have to worry about it. Like, I'm sorry, why isn't everyone tested? Like
it should just be like
why?
a general
thing.
Yeah, like if we're getting our flu shot or whatever, like every year we need to get these things.
Yeah,
that should be one of them.
Or, just everyone's tested at, I don't know, 13, 14 before you start having children.
Yeah.
So you can make educated decisions whether you feel like passing that on or not.
Yeah.
Because it's a 50-50 chance, right? Fuck. So to me, I'm just like, well, this is so obvious. Why don't we do it like this?
Yeah. Because it's not for people that just are not exposed to it.
It's a bummer hearing people's stories.
I had no idea about that. Like in my family, we don't have any of that stuff at least that I'm aware of. I really don't know much about my body, honestly. Because
Right.
it's just like it was never really emphasized. Or if it was, I missed school that day or something.
Sure.
You know? Like in
Sure.
my household, it's more about like, let's survive. We're immigrants to this country. Let's get fucking, like you say, pitter patter. Let's move.
Pitter-patter.
So taking care of your general health is not a thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a thing until there's a thing.
Right.
And now you're like, fuck.
I think also like going back to what you said, Bart, is like just, you know, blatantly trusting these doctors as authority figures can also be such a generational thing. Like for our parents,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the law. That's the word. Like there's no second opinions. There's no maybe more holistic care or alternative care. You know, everything that we're seeing now with the incredible advancements in like plant medicine and stuff. Like our parents are just not open, you know, to that at all.
Absolutely not.
And I think that's a thing that's changing, and it's really cool because people are being their own advocates. Like they're going, and it can be overwhelming looking at all the research and all the things that are out there. Where do you even start?
Yep.
I've been very lucky in that aspect to also, you know, have my sister kind of guide this, because I didn't know this genetic mutation was a thing until she's like, hey, this exists. We should get tested.
Damn, good for her.
And not everyone has that person in their life. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, now I can do that with my audience.
I love that.
So
That's
I was
awesome.
super, super open about the whole recovery process, the whole rehab process, getting back to lifting, you know, sharing like my mobility. I'm like, here's how far I can reach today. And today I'm here. And, you know, like the whole process. So it was great. It felt good sharing that. And, you know, there was a great response to that too. People are, oh my God, thank you. I didn't know this was a thing. My mom had breast cancer. Me and my sister are going to go get tested. And to me, that's everything.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. It's like, oh, I wanted to make a difference. Now I am. Like maybe I didn't feel like I was back then.
Yeah.
But like, yo, you're really making a difference. These people could be saving their own lives.
Absolutely. When did you know, at what age or at what point in your life did you know that you wanted to make a difference?
I think probably when I was diagnosed, but I didn't know how.
Gotcha.
I knew that I didn't feel like I was making a difference currently. I knew that I felt it a little bit with coaching and in the gym and helping these people make these positive changes in their lives and with their body and their health.
You didn't feel like you're making a difference there?
No, I did. I did.
Oh, I see. But
Not,
just
not in
not
my not in my corporate position.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I was kind of headed down that route, but didn't really know like what is that thing?
Yeah.
And then I was diagnosed. And I was like, oh, I have a thing. Fuck this. And I'm like, wait, let's spin this around. Like this could be a really, really impactful, you know, thing that you have to share with the world.
Super cool.
That's what you said about my nickel allergies. Super cool.
Hey, I'm very positive.
You're so positive. That's why I love you.
Thank you. So I want to backtrack a little bit because you keep talking
We just
about...
covered so much.
We did. We
Yeah.
absolutely went out on the deep end really quickly. But just to backtrack a little bit, you keep saying you're an athlete, right?
Yeah.
I called you a coach.
Yeah.
You are you do compete in
Yes.
powerlifting, but before that even happened, you were track and field in college.
in college, yeah, I ran track.
Yeah. And then from that, I can understand the transition from going to that to now the real world and going, okay, I got to make a living. So it went to that.
Yeah. And I was working in that position part-time in college. I was already working for Victoria's Secret and just stayed with them and was working my way up, you know, into like a supervisor role and a manager and so on and so on.
And was that because you're like, well, that's the safe route to take?
I never thought of it as being safe. I thought of it as something I enjoyed at the time.
Gotcha.
And something I was good at.
And then
And
coaching
I never,
was what?
coaching kind of fell into my lap.
Gotcha.
How did it
And
fall
I
into your lap?
realized that I really enjoyed it. So my friend owned a CrossFit gym at the time, and I was kind of training more than I should at that point in my life. I was like CrossFit in the morning and like still bodybuilding, but they were looking for trainers to be at the gym, and so I got certified and started taking clients there part-time while still working at Victoria's Secret. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember
like-
your question.
Certified as in like getting your level 1 and then teaching CrossFit?
No, not CrossFit. Certified in like personal training.
Oh,
Yes.
I see.
Yes. And then I found powerlifting.
Okay. How did you find that?
My friend, who was a CrossFit competitor, told me that she was signing up for a powerlifting meet. And I'm like, oh, what's that?
What year are we talking?
2015,
Okay.
2014.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's that? And she's like, well, it's this. It's squat, bench, deadlift. I'm like, that's it? You know, it's it. You just have to lift heavy.
You were
Sick.
doing those 3 already?
Squatting and deadlifting, but you don't bench so much in CrossFit.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally, but not a ton.
And then you were doing bodybuilding.
Yeah, still not benching a ton.
Yeah,
And
okay.
not doing it properly, not in like a powerlifting way, right?
Yeah.
So I jumped into that meet with her with like maybe 3 months of kind of serious training. I won my weight class and I was like, yo, this is dope.
What did you win with? What are the numbers?
My numbers. I think like a 230 squat.
Nice.
Damn, that's pretty
At
good.
2014, 2015, that was fucking, no one really
Oh,
did.
in reps too, because I didn't know what I was
What?
doing. So I had a coach that
Oh,
that
shit,
wrapped
that's crazy.
me. So probably actually squatting like 200,
Yeah.
maybe 205.
That's still really good for that time. 'Cause
And I was-
competition
And
has
your
been
first
gnarly
meet.
now.
Yeah,
And
and
your
I was
first meet,
probably
too.
like 115
Oh,
body weight.
Jesus.
Just a skinny kid. you
Yeah.
know? Bench maybe 120, 125.
Damn.
That's really good.
And then pulled like 286.
Damn, they're all good.
Fuck.
It was good enough to win my weight class at that meet at that point in time. And I was telling Bart, like now I look at my best numbers and I'm like, yo, those don't even
They don't
qualify to
exist.
do shit anymore.
Yeah. The competition is crazy.
It's
now.
cool. It's so cool to see women, deadlifting over 600,
Yes.
like benching well over
incredible.
3. I'm like, wow,
Squatting 400 pounds like nothing.
Dude.
It's very
squatting
discouraging.
over 5.
No,
like,
they need to
five.
stop. They need to stop. It's very,
you
very
need to
discouraging.
slow down, babes.
I look at the girls in my weight class and they're stronger than me.
Dude. And it's all because of social media. Social
I
media
love
is
it.
just attracting this higher caliber athlete and it's more
And the
readily
internet,
available.
too.
Yeah, more people can find this sport.
Yeah.
And you don't need a lot of equipment to do this sport, right?
Yeah.
You need gym membership and belt. You
Yeah.
know, my wrist straps. That's it. But so I did my first powerlifting meet, and after that, I was hooked. So I got my powerlifting like level 1 cert, and focused on taking powerlifting clients. And I had some lifestyle clients too. I had like a couple grandmas in their 60s, and
Oh, cool.
that always kept training interesting because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I have a group of athletes, and then I have this grandma that wants to.
Gertrude.
Her goal is to like carry her
Monster.
grandchildren up the stairs. So that was dope. Like just a really wide variety of people with different goals always kept me on my toes and challenged as a coach, which was cool. So
How did you know you wanted that to be like once you figured out you're not going to do what your typical 9 to 5 was? How did you know that coaching was going to be it?
because that's where I was finding joy in my life. Yeah. So I put my 2 weeks in. And then I announced that I was going to start taking people at this gym and contact me here
Where did you put that up?
on the internet. I had a bit of a following at the time.
What are we talking about?
Maybe 20, 30K.
How did
Dang,
how did
yeah,
you
how did you get that?
Yeah, how did you start even posting on Instagram and getting a following?
Just by lifting videos.
So you
Oh,
were just
cool.
a fucking
Yeah.
stud, and
I
people
was
are
just
like,
sharing lifting videos and sharing my life and that kind of like part-time coach trainer life in the gym. And it kind of grew organically. And it was so much easier to grow organically back then,
Yeah.
you know? So that wasn't unheard of. But so I already had a little bit of a following, started advertising, and I got enough people to where I was like almost making the same amount as I was there and or at my corporate job. And put in my 2 weeks, didn't burn any of those bridges, even though I was tempted to. And
fuck you, fuck you, fuck
like,
you.
yeah, one of
You're
those
cool.
things. And then, just started living my life in the gym all day, every day, training people, doing my own workouts. And it eventually got to a point where I was a bit burnt out. Like I overdid it. I didn't want to stay and do my own workouts.
Oof.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of the opposite of what I wanted to happen.
What was driving you at that point? Was it financial stability, or was it help as many people as possible, or was it like, I don't know what I'm doing?
Both.
Okay.
Definitely the financial stability piece, because I was trying to, I was making good money before. And then you're like, oh, now it's all up to me. I need to buy my own health insurance. I need to do all these self-employed
Yeah.
things that equal expenses, right? So definitely financial. And I'm like, okay, I can cram this many sessions in a day. But then when I'm all done, I don't want to do my own training. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many clients I can see. Okay, how do I scale this? Right? So that was when I actually moved to St. Louis and decided to—
From Iowa.
From Iowa. Yeah, the Quad Cities in Iowa. And when I moved, I was going to move in with a friend and kind of just figure my life out. And when I moved, I said, okay, I'm going to just take people online.
Wait, why St. Louis? You could have gone to LA.
I could have gone
to Vegas,
anywhere,
the
right?
capital
So
of like fitness.
I had just left a really shitty relationship and I needed a quick out. And I had a friend in St. Louis that I could
Got
move
it.
in with. Yes,
Got it.
she had a spare bedroom. I was like, yo, can I move in with you until I figure this out? She's amazing. We're still good friends. She's like, of course. So when I moved to St. Louis, I was like, okay, I'm going to switch to online only, see if I can make this work. If I can't, I know there's a gym that would take me as a trainer. It's a safe fallback, right?
Nice.
So I
And
switched.
online for you was like, this is, I can scale. I'm not going to be burnt out. I can do.
Right.
Got it.
I can handle 30, 40 clients instead of, 10, 15,
Did
20.
anyone walk you through this before? Or were you just
Nope.
looking at other people's models and going, oh, that's what they're doing?
I think I can make it work. Yeah.
Stud.
Basically, okay, I'll send you programming. You send me videos. I'll give you feedback where I'm charging less than I would in person, of course. And fingers crossed. Let's see if I can make this work. I see other people on Instagram doing the online coaching thing. I think this seems possible.
Taking that leap of faith though is so crazy.
Yeah.
Because like when you work
and
for
I've taken it twice now. So I'm like, well, I did it. I left a thing before and I made it work. I think I can do this again.
But yeah, because there's always that fear of unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas like if you work for a company, I'm like, oh, I will work for, I don't know, like Spectrum. And you're like, they're probably going to be around. So
Yeah.
my job will probably be around.
Yeah, this is stable. This is a safe move.
Versus when you're working for yourself, you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to be around. So you're like, who knows? It's crazy.
I'm definitely one of those people though that like I will stay comfortable until I just force myself to jump. Like I'll jump and catch myself and figure it out, but otherwise I'll just chill. So I always have to kind of be like pushing myself to get
Gotcha.
uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're just challenging yourself.
Like
'cause you're
I'll jump and I'll figure it out and I'll make it work.
Yeah.
But if I don't do that, I'll just sit back and just like coast.
And you don't like that.
And I'm not that big of a fan of that part of my personality, right?
As soon as I feel that something's calling me to jump, I have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just realized I think there shouldn't ever be a aversion to something. And if there is, I think it's actually your ego hiding an insecurity.
Yeah.
And so you start coming up with like
Yep.
excuses and they're like, oh, you don't need to do that because of this. Oh, that
Yeah.
because of that. But that's where the growth is going to happen
You're so
on the
right.
other side. So as soon as I feel it, I'm like, I have to do it. Yeah.
And it's so cliche that growth and change all happens outside of your comfort zone. It's
Yeah.
like, well, that's dead on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. And so many things can stop you from taking that first step. Like what you said, even that like imposter syndrome. Like, who am I that people would want this from me?
All
Like,
the
Why
time.
would they listen to
All
me
the time. Yeah.
in any way?
Well, because
maybe
the
you guys have felt that.
absolute opposite of that is you kind of have to be a little narcissistic. That
Yes.
you have to have this confidence in like, yeah, I am kind of the shit, and you should be listening to me. You know, that I get it.
I mean, we're all operating on the most narcissistic app
True.
that has ever existed.
True.
Yeah.
Like-
From one follower
accepted.
to a
That's
million,
real.
you're taking a picture of yourself. That's narcissistic.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing. Look at me. Look what I can do. It's very, very interesting, like social experiment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew that I had to jump and figure it out. And it helps to know that like, okay, if it doesn't, here's what I can do. And, I appreciate my parents, like anytime I made a weird move or, in my career or physically moved, they're like, it's fine. You can always go back to what you're doing.
Wow.
You can always come back home.
That's amazing.
And I think my parents, maybe they haven't always understood, but they've always supported.
That's beautiful.
Like came to all my track meets, came to all
That's
my
awesome.
powerlifting meets. Like, yeah, they're great.
What was your event in track, by the way?
The 400.
The 400?
Yeah.
That's just one lap, right?
Just one lap.
One big
Yeah.
round lap.
One
Look
big
how he just
lap.
minimized that
Yeah,
shit.
I know.
No, no, I didn't mean
Just
like
one time
that.
around, right?
No, I didn't mean it like that. No, because I was like, I forgot if it was 200 or not.
Dude, yeah, 200 is half. So even like looking at a track now, I'm like, oh, how did you get around that in less than a minute? Like it just makes me want to puke just thinking
You
about
did
it.
less than a minute was your fastest.
59 seconds. Yeah, it's a sprint. It's considered a
What
sprint, right?
made you do 400 versus 200 or the 100?
That was my best event. Like I was most competitive
I see.
in that. So a track meet for me was always the open 4, the 4x4 and the 4x1 because I was like the third or fourth 100 fastest girl.
What's 4x4, like a relay?
Yes.
I
So
see.
every person runs one lap. You have a baton,
Yeah.
right? You pass it off. Every person completes a lap.
Have you ever done hurdles?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm 5'2",
I
so
see.
I'm not like this, tall, beautiful 6-foot goddess here.
Yeah, she jumps over 2 hurdles at a time.
I bet. Yeah, she's got the tall hurdles.
I'm like a fucking giraffe, dude. I have none of that in me.
Dude,
we're just tall, but we're not efficient.
And I love track. Like for me, track was like the end all be all until I found lifting. I was like, I'm actually much better at this, much more competitive.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not really built, I feel like, to do either of those things particularly well.
Yeah, your bench is really good for someone with long arms.
Why are they so long? I'm just Gumby.
I didn't even know that they're long.
I didn't even realize.
They
I didn't
are.
even realize
I can
that
wrap you both up in the most perfect hug right now. Yeah, I don't know where we were in my story.
No, I absolutely know where I'm at. I know where I'm
in
at.
St.
I'm
Louis.
so interested in your
Hit me.
story. Okay, so at this point, are you a sponsored athlete and a coach, and like you're kind of traveling everywhere, or we're not there yet?
I think the sponsorships were kind of just slowly starting to roll in.
Yeah.
I worked with a local clothing company before I moved to St. Louis. When I moved to St. Louis, I got on with Run Everything Labs supplements.
That's Rob and Dana's.
Yes.
Dana
And
Bailey.
I would have gotten on with Matt's company, Hate Brand Goods, probably right before I moved to St. Louis. So they were kind of just starting to slow roll in as my following was growing, and that was kind of developing.
Were you like, oh shit, I'm gonna make a living off of this, or is this one of those moments where you're like, or off of this meaning, off of the internet, social media, Instagram, or were you like, I don't know what's happening, I'm still rolling and leaning into it, let's figure it out as we go?
I would say probably the latter. I
Oh,
think my
shit.
whole life has kind of been like a figuring it out
Oh shit.
as I go. Yeah.
So it wasn't even that strategic. You weren't like, I'm growing at this rate. I know I need a network. I know I have to do all this
I
stuff.
don't think I've done a lot of things strategically.
That's amazing.
Like I feel like I do now a bit more so.
it sounds like you
because-
do a lot of that. now.
Yeah. And I think now there's a lot more thought put into it, and realizing your value and your worth, and like things to ask for as far as sponsorships, and like what's a monthly salary, like what's reasonable for that. But at the time, and when you're starting off, I think you're taking what you can get. You're like, oh, cool, this company's sending me free products and $100 a month. Amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just kind of figuring it out, and, watching other people, and like, oh, people are making this work. Like, I don't need to go anywhere for work every day. And I remember that being a really weird thing when I was like, I don't have an office I have to go to. I don't have to go to a gym to see clients.
weird.
Yeah, you don't technically have to dress
Very
up
odd.
Yeah.
Very odd.
or wake up at like work time. You don't technically have to do
Because
that.
if you think about it, we've been programmed since we were 5 to have a schedule, clock in, clock out. You
That's
know what I mean?
true.
You have a lunch hour at this time, and then there's a cutoff at 3, whether that's school or for sports or working at a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Like we've been programmed to do
And I
that. So
actually
get
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Having
And
that schedule.
Yeah, it makes me the most productive, which
makes
is
sense.
why even when we started working for ourselves, I just stuck to a schedule.
Yeah. And for some people, like that's a must. Like
Yeah.
that's a must. It makes you the most productive. That works really well. For me, when I was just starting off and building clients, there were definitely days where I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this free time I have, because I check in with these clients twice a week. I've got free time. Like all I need to do is watch some videos and have some communication, So for me, it was like, what do I even do with all this time I have? It was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was getting on with sponsors. I flew out for a couple of your guys' photo shoots.
Yeah.
I feel like it's strange that we've known each other for this long, but like we're really getting to know each other this year.
Yeah. We're
Like, this
really
year
getting close.
started off with a bang,
Yeah.
and it's just
Was it just this year?
Yeah.
Oh,
January
shit.
1st.
So yeah, you did.
Or 2 days into last year.
Oh my
It
god.
was 2020 going into 2021.
Yeah. So I actually didn't get to meet you during that time because I was either pregnant or I had just given birth. So I was completely out of Barbell.
I think we had met once or twice, but I'd run into Bart more often.
Yeah. Where did we meet?
Maybe
I
that
came-
at an event, Arnold, Olympia, maybe Fit Expo.
I came with Matt to your studio when y'all podcasted with Matt one time.
Okay, the one in LA.
And that might have been the one time that we met.
I do remember that, and it was so brief.
it
Did
was
we
brief.
eat tacos in the back from a taco truck?
No,
No.
they just came and
No.
went. We didn't even.
We didn't
hang out.
even do dinner. It was
Nothing.
it was just in and out for he was on the podcast with
Oh,
y'all.
Yeah, I think we
And
probably
that
had
was-
Taika.
I think so. And that was the only time we had met. I think we had met twice, maybe prior to that. But yeah, this year just changed everything. I'm so grateful for that.
Absolutely. Oh my god. Okay, so I hate it because I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh shit, we're running out of time. But I do want to get into something that I think is so interesting. The fact that so you started pretty traditionally, I would say, right? Like you went to school, you did athletics.
Yes.
You ended up doing 9 to 5, climbing the corporate ladder. I think that's very traditional. That's very normal. We can all wrap our brains around that. Then you stumble across, or not, I don't know if you stumbled across it, but you do powerlifting, your social media starts growing. You're like, oh shit, life changes, flipping it all around. I'm going to start doing my own thing. You find out you have the BRCA.
Well, that would have been
after
before.
Oh, before, right? Okay, so you have that. That puts
That was like definitely the
fire.
catalyst to leave my 9 to 5.
Yeah, so that puts kind of a fire on your ass to be like, oh shit, I got to figure this shit out because time is of the essence. Yeah. But then you try. I don't know if at this point or any of these phases in your life, you started looking to like alternative medicine, aka. Drugs, right?
AKA drugs.
AKA drugs.
That's funny.
Why is it funny?
No, I
just jumped right into
I thought you were
it.
looking for a euphemism, but it wasn't.
If you want a nicer term, you can say plant medicine.
Plant medicine,
Yeah.
AKA the hard
Drugs.
stuff. What was it? Was that something that you were like leaning into because you wanted to sort some shit out, or was it like it was something you did for funsies that kind of turned into?
And specifically, what plant medicine?
Sure. So I think it started, smoking weed, which is pretty casual. I never smoked with much intention other than like relax, sleep, get a little loose, laugh, feel good.
Yeah, like a glass of wine after dinner or something.
Yeah, very casual, not a lot of intention or expectation behind it. And then it would have been in 2019. So Matt and I are together. Neither of us drink really at all anymore, maybe one here and there. But smoking weed pretty regularly together, like that's our nighttime down regulation routine. Like we love doing that together. We love getting silly. Y'all see us on the couch,
you guys are the best.
just being goofy and flirty. We love it. So in 2019, I can't remember who it was, but a friend of Matt's connected Matt to this place called Rhythmia, which is a holistic healing center in Costa Rica. And their whole their whole thing is giving these ayahuasca experiences to people, and they were looking for influencers.
Oh,
and,
cool!
Yes, who were interested, who felt called to the medicine, and they were looking for people to come down for a week of ceremony and be fully transparent and 100% open about their experience while at Rhythmia.
Were you scared?
Terrified.
Because like. When you have I think the worst nightmare for like an influencer or someone with a following is being in your most vulnerable state, right? And you're like that.
Well, I didn't have my phone on me in the ceremony, but
oh, okay. But
yeah.
then like other people that recognize you, and then it's like imagine like you catch Will Smith like on the grass somewhere. Like, oh my God, is that Will Smith tripping balls?
I was not concerned about anyone recognizing me there. I knew it would be a completely different crowd
Yeah.
than the bubble the strength world that we're used to operating in. Matt and I were very out of place there. We're just like very much these like derpy kind of meatheads. Like,
Really?
We looked very out of place. People remembered our names instantly because we were just so like didn't look like we were meant to be there.
Yeah.
Think about like the kookiest yoga person, like, and then
That's you, dude.
And then imagine, imagine 100. It's interesting that you say that because depending on what kind of friend group we're in, we're either like the super kooky kind of spiritual ones or we're the meatheads.
I get it.
Okay. So for some reason, we're able to like float back between these two worlds, which is super cool, and I'm very grateful for it. But in this situation, we were the meatheads, right? Just looked ridiculous there. There was probably no other guys over 150 pounds. Okay. So like, yeah.
I could relate too, because in the comedy world, everyone looks at me like I'm the Rock.
Sure.
But in the fitness world, I'm the smallest guy I know.
Right. And
So
Matt
it's
gets
funny.
that too. Some people are like, oh my God, Matt. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like my brother's 6'5", 300, So yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah.
So Matt had been very interested in ayahuasca and everything he had read about it and, podcasts and heard about it. And me, it was a bit of a newer concept. So I started kind of diving into that and thinking about, what would I like to get out of it? And then, Rhythmia was like, yeah, we'd love to have you guys come down, share your week, share your experience. We'd like to see a couple posts, and we'd like you to read this book before you come and share the book. And so it was really well done, really organized. And we get there on a Sunday, and there's ceremony Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. So it's
You do ayahuasca 4 days in a row?
It's 4 nights in a row. It's a very exhausting week. So ceremony starts at 5:30 in the evening. You go to the Maloka, the temple, in the center of the resort. And it kind of feels like an all-inclusive nice resort, but then there's also a bit that like makes it feel like kind of a rehab facility. Like you're like, okay, something else is happening here. This is not just relaxation. No, but it just has a different
the energy
vibe.
Like, people are there for something else other than just relaxing.
Something other than vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a drug, like a party drug. Like, this is work. This is medicine. So yeah, you're there for 4 nights of ceremony. So it starts at 5:30 and it usually goes till about 2 p.m. or 2 a.m.
Ooh.
Pardon me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So there's
You're just tripping balls for fucking like 7 hours?
Some nights. And there's no dinner. So, because typically people get sick and purge.
Purge,
which is, that was one thing that I think a lot of people come into really scared of. Like, oh, I'm going to throw up in front of all these people.
Exactly. I don't want to be Will Smith fucking throwing up all over the place.
Like a fucking cat bringing up a fucking hairball.
Dude, yeah. Yeah. And what's coming is going, right? So whatever you're feeling is exactly what you need to feel and get rid of. But so there was 100 people there that week. And
can you walk me through your first trip and what does it feel like the minute you recognize?
How much time do we have?
The minute you recognize that your mind is in an altered state.
So let me set the scene for you.
Okay.
So the Maloka is this temple in the middle of the resort, and it's just this big kind of open air room. And there are twin mattresses all laid out. Yep, there's 100 people there.
Are they at least nice mattresses, or do they look like jail like?
It looks nice. It looks
good.
Yeah, memory foam or coils?
Probably memory foam. Everything looked very nice. There was nothing sketchy at all. Mattress, pillow, blanket, bucket, toilet paper. That's what you have.
Tight.
There are bathrooms. The bucket is for vomiting.
Not taking a shit.
Yeah, I suppose you could if you had, but that's never an issue, getting to the bathroom. So you go in for ceremony 5:30. You are encouraged to dress in all white, just out of respect for Aya.
Were you nervous already? Like, does it feel like you're doing, you're about to like? I
was terrified because I had no idea what to expect up until ayahuasca. I had only done mushrooms a couple times.
Yeah.
So my experience with psychedelics was pretty little. But those had all been good experiences and really eye-opening for me. And so I was already kind of headed down that path, which is great. But
and when you're doing these things, it's always for self-work, or is it just like to have fun?
I've done both.
Tight.
I've done both. I think both are perfectly fine. And I think more drugs are suited to one and more drugs are suited to the other too.
Yeah.
But so you go to ceremony, you get your cup. And so ayahuasca is like a thick brewed tea. So it's not a nice texture. It's not a nice flavor, but it's like a tall shot.
Thick, like a chowder almost?
Yeah. Wow. Not like chunky.
I see.
But it's just thick. And you take it like a shot. As you get your drink, the shaman in front of you, and there's multiple shaman in the building, and they're there to hold space and protect the energy and help anyone that needs help throughout the night, in no matter what that means.
Love that.
Right? So you go up to the shaman, you get your cup, and you kind of just put your intentions into the drink and like what you'd like to get out of your evening and what you'd like to get out of ceremony. Take your drink, go back to, well, I guess you don't go back to your mattress just yet. You go to another shaman who gives you rapé, which is a tobacco mixed with tree ash or tree bark ash. And that is a little pipe and it goes into your nostril and they go poof, and it blows into your head.
What does that do?
It's like an instant drunk is the best way I would describe it.
Shit.
And I had some nights where it was really intense and really
Why do they do
impactful.
that?
It's just to enhance your experience.
Oh.
And there's a lot of ceremony and routine and culture that goes into that as well. But the best way I can describe the rapé is like an instant drunk. Like you go to completely sober to feeling like, oh, I had 15 beers.
Holy shit.
Fuck.
And that's a good solid blow. Like it's like back your brains kind of
Whoa.
go out. Or you can have a gentle one that's like, okay, I'm a little fucked up, but I'm fine. I can get back to my mattress. So the first 2 nights of ceremony, I had nothing. Absolutely nothing. I didn't have any visions. I didn't
You didn't even
see
feel like an
or
altered state?
No,
What?
nothing. So a lot, like that first night I stayed in my mattress. The second night I went outside and I laid in a hammock and I watched the stars, and it was actually New Year's Eve. So I was watching the fireworks going off, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, I had nadas for the first 2 nights.
Were you like, this shit's fucking weak?
I was a little suspicious at that point because I came in fairly skeptical, you know? I'm like, oh.
Was Matt tripping balls at this point?
He also had nadas the first 2 nights.
Nadas? Are you speaking Spanish?
Nadas, like nothing, nada.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I
they
wasn't
call it.
sure. Okay, got it.
Yeah, nothing happened.
So both of you guys drank the ayahuasca,
Had nadas.
got the tree ash thing. Nothing for 2 nights.
Nothing the first 2 nights of ceremony. So, and we podcasted the whole time we were down there. So we would podcast every morning and talk about our night before.
Cool.
So the podcast of the after the second night of ceremony, excuse me, is probably a really big bummer to listen to because we were both bummed. And Matt was so frustrated because
Sleep deprived.
Yeah,
hungry.
Because he came in with so many things that he wanted out of the experience.
Yeah, he has very specific intentions.
Which, you know, it gives you what you need, not necessarily what you want, right? So that's why I think it maybe could have gotten tricky for him. So, okay, those were the first 2 nights. Night number 3 was ladies' night. So all the women were shaman, or all the shaman were women that night. And they have live music, so there's drums and flutes and just really beautiful tribal music playing. And there's just incense and candles, and my contacts are out so I'm kind of blind, and it's all just very, very trippy. So I get my drink, I get my hape, and I go lay down on my mattress, and I'm like, okay, if nothing else, like maybe I'll get a good night's sleep, you know, based off the first 2 nights. And so I'm laying there in fetal position. I remember very specifically I'm on my right side, and I'm just kind of relaxing. And then all of a sudden I feel like these waves kind of just rolling through me, like just kind of energy coursing through me. I'm like, okay, here we go. Like I'm familiar enough in these waters that I recognize this feeling.
Buckle our seatbelts.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. I'm like, something's happening tonight. I'm like, great, let's go. This is why I came here.
Put the football helmet on.
Yeah. And I hope I have enough time to talk about all
No,
this.
yeah.
It's kind of a, if you really want me to break it down, I will.
Yeah, no, this is crazy.
So I'm laying there.
Very interested.
I'm feeling all this energy kind of just rolling through me. And I'm laying there, and right here in my vision, my eyes are closed, but this girl appears to me, and she's a sketch. It's like a pencil sketch.
Like a fucking
come to
aha?
life.
Like what's that fucking Take On Me music video, something like that?
I don't know.
Take On Me? No?
Oh.
Okay. Never mind. Moving
I
on.
don't know the music video.
But a pencil sketch lady
A pencil
came.
sketch of a little girl,
Okay.
not a lady, little girl. And she goes, how can I help? And I'm like, oh shit. And before I could respond to her, she's gone. She disappears.
What?
That was just it. It was like, how can I help? And I'm like, whoa. And then I'm kind of like, oh, interesting. I sit up and I look around, and I'm instantly just overcome with so much fear and anxiety.
Ooh.
I'm just terrified. And so I can't see that well. It's dark, it's smoky. And then I'm kind of just taking in the scene around me, and I'm like, oh my God, we're all crazy. Like I felt like we were in like an insane asylum. Like
There's a ton of
we're all
beds.
crazy
Yeah.
here. Yeah. And there's a girl who can't like walk. She's drunk, drunk on Aya. And she's like slow motion, like army crawling.
Oh, Jesus. That's
There's a
terrifying.
guy. There's a guy over here who spoke in tongues every night, and he was over there doing his tongues thing. There's one lady over here just like aggressively rocking herself. And then to top it all off, to add to my fear, there was a girl outside screaming
Oh my
to be
God.
killed.
Oh my God.
And all the shaman had left the Maloka. They'd all ran outside to help this girl. And I'm just overcome with fear. Like I just can't stop crying.
And Matt It's nowhere to be found. He's in boys' night.
Matt is actually on the other side of the Maloka. So they encourage you to split up from your partner.
Good.
That way you're not impacted by their night.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're feeling and experiencing could be completely opposite of what
Yeah.
they're feeling and
Yeah.
experiencing. They don't want you distracted
That
by
makes
trying
sense.
to assist your partner.
Yeah.
So I'm terrified. I'm crying. I'm like like that kind of crying. And I'm self-soothing with that rocking motion, which I don't know that I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Maybe I did it as a child. But I'm just using that to self-soothe, and I'm crying and rocking and sobbing and so afraid that he's afraid. I'm worried about him. I'm thinking about him. And eventually, like no one comes to help me. Like no one comes. No shaman comes. None of my neighbors help me. Nothing. And it's exactly what I needed. I needed to be able to get over that fear and conquer that fear by myself. And all I wanted was for someone to come, like, tell me, like, touch me and tell me it was going to be okay. And no one ever came. And once I kind of had a grip on that and I understood why I needed to experience it alone, I was like, okay, let me gather myself. I think I have to go to the bathroom. I think I can feel my bladder and I think I need to pee. And so you're very just unsure of your body. You're like, if I stand up, can I? Is that going to work? Like, will my legs work? And so I stood up and I'm like, oh, okay, all good. So I make it to the bathroom, which is not very far.
So you're high as fuck then.
You are, but you also know you are.
I see.
You're like, okay, there's a reason I feel this way.
Yeah.
It's because I took a drug.
Yeah.
So you're not so out of touch to where you aren't like able to like rationalize. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I get up and go to the bathroom. I'm sitting in the bathroom and it's the most impactful bathroom moment I've ever had in my life. I'm sitting in there. I'm like, okay, you were sober enough to come here. So that means you're sober enough to go get a second drink. And that was
second drink, like a second shot. What made you want to get a second shot?
They say if you are like feeling sober enough to where you can handle it, you should do it.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to, but I know I should. So I mustered up my courage and I went up, back to the front and got my next drink from the shaman. And I thought I was going to be sick for that one. I kind of scurried back to my mattress because I thought I was going to puke, but I didn't. I got back and then the fear just came all over again.
no.
I'm crying, I'm sobbing, I'm rocking just aggressively. Still no one's coming. No comfort, nothing. And I remember, what I told you, like everything I'm feeling, like what's coming is going. I'm supposed to feel this. I'm supposed to feel this fear. I'm supposed to process this fear. For whatever reason, I have all this fear built up inside of me and I just need to let it go. And so I got to a good point with it. And then the music changed. And for whatever reason, that music shifted over to like a really like kind of tribal drums. And it was really, really good. Like I felt it. I felt it. And like I felt very seen by the music. And I was like, oh. And then all of a sudden everything started feeling really, really, really good. And my fingertips were just buzzing with electricity. And like I was like feeling my body and I'm like, whoa, just completely overwhelmed by my own body. And what an amazing, like,
Were you like,
capable
fuck,
machine.
I'm fucking jacked.
Oh.
I look dope.
I wasn't even thinking jacked, but I kept like squeezing my butt. I'm like, this is incredible. I was like, oh my God. And I
Is
would
it
close
from,
my
like,
eyes. I would close my eyes and I would see these beautiful just kaleidoscopes and just blasting through this incredible amount of like sacred geometry and just it was beautiful. And it was happening when my eyes were open and it was happening when my eyes were closed. And when I would close my eyes, I couldn't help but giggle. And so I'm giggling and then this guy over here would be giggling and we just go back and forth. And they say no crosstalk, right? Like you can puke, you can cough, you can cry, laugh, whatever you need to do, but like no talking. And me and this guy are just going back and forth and I'm just being like this little kid, just like
You could affect
snickering.
each other.
Right. And my neighbor, this lovely lady from Australia it looked like she was having a beautiful night because she was kind of laying there and just dancing and just her hands were just moving and it was so beautiful. And I just got locked in on her hands and I watched them for a while. And then I like put my hands in with hers and we're just vibing and she's touching my arms. I'm touching her arms and it was not sexual at all, but just this amazing connection. She told me the next morning at breakfast that I had become her daughter.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, which was really meaningful for her because she hasn't had any relationship with her daughter for so long. And so we're vibing and just having a beautiful night and I'm just giggling and just completely blissed out, like to the max. And then one of the shaman came over and she just to check on me. And I'm like crying, laughing because I cannot keep my shit together. You've seen it. I just can't stop.
Yeah.
And she passed me my back and rubs my back and she's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I get it. I was like, this is what I've been missing, because my first 2 nights had been nothing. And she just like gave me a hug and then left, go check on someone else. And
you're like, where were you the other fucking 2 hours,
yeah.
you bitch?
But man, it's exactly what I needed.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions, like longing questions answered?
Not that night, I don't think. I think that night was Aya just showing me both ends of the spectrum.
Of like extreme fear,
like
extreme
darkness
bliss.
and lightness.
Like this is how gnarly this can get. And this is how dark and scary and ugly this can get. And this is how incredibly beautiful and blissed out this can be for you.
Wow.
So I think I have a lot more work to do the next time I feel called to ceremony. But I stayed in that blissed out state probably until like 5 a.m. Bless Matt's heart because he had a more chill night. All of his nights were pretty chill compared to mine. But he just let me touch him and feel his body and cry over how beautiful his elbows were and play with his hair and just be completely overwhelmed by his existence.
Awesome.
And just let me giggle until 5 a.m. and held my hand and let me just cry at the stars. And that was the women's night or the ladies' night 3. That was my really, really big, impactful night.
Really, what did you take away from that?
I think just being able to let go of the fear was so important for me, because I think that fear had actually been a block the first 2 nights, just because I was so afraid of what could happen. And just the unknown of it.
Do you think that was also something that you carried with you? Because I think at this point you hadn't come to terms yet with, having to remove your boobs or like that whole thing, right?
Very true. No, this would have been like a year before I decided to make that decision. And I left with letting go of so much fear and anxiety. And I also left with tons of gratitude and appreciation for my body.
That's what it seemed like. Because it seemed like you're in a state of like
overwhelmed by myself.
Yeah, that's so cool.
By this avatar meat sack that I'm cruising around in.
I love the meat sack.
It's incredible, right? Like just being so grateful for it and everything it's done for me.
That's so interesting because right when he was asking like, what is BRCA? What are you talking about? That you were just so pissed at your body.
Yeah.
You're like, why is this shit turning on me?
Yeah.
I'm so far from that.
Yeah.
And even throughout the healing process after surgery, I'm continually just amazed by this. Like our ability to heal and recover from these incredibly traumatic things.
Yeah.
And, that was a lot of what Matt experienced too with his 9 surgeries. Like he had some talking to do to his hip and knee and his body. And like your body, your muscles, it remembers all this trauma. You might not remember because you're under anesthesia, right? That's the whole point. But it's still happening to your body. Your body's still absorbing all this trauma. And that has to be released somehow, right? Or come to terms with somehow because it's holding on to this energy. So that was really impactful for him. And for me, waking up the next morning was so insane because everything about me was perfect.
Ooh.
Like my skin was perfect. My hair was perfect. I was literally glowing and it didn't feel like it was in my head. Like to the touch, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a newborn baby. It was insane. And everyone knew, not that they had seen me, but like when I came to breakfast, like everyone could tell. And everyone's like, so how was your night? I was like, well, pretty good. I give them a little rundown and they're like, well, happy birthday.
Ooh.
And I'm like, and it just felt so good. And I met the guy that I was giggling back and forth with last night. And he's like, you were so great. He's like, your energy was so good. He's like, you were just like a little kid that had a secret. I'm like, that sounds about right. Because I was just snickering all night. Like, oh, this is so trippy. This is so cool. But that next morning was one of the best mornings ever. It was just my favorite. Because I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, everything about me is perfect. Like,
how cool.
And it wasn't even in like some type of weird narcissistic way, but like I genuinely believed it.
Just being grateful for yourself.
Wow.
That's
like,
awesome.
To the next level.
Have you ever had that before?
No.
Your whole
not
life?
like that. Not like that. No. And
it was more like performance or numbers or placements or
I've generally had a pretty good relationship with myself and my appearance and my body. And I'm very grateful for that and everything that has led to that. But never like this.
Yeah.
It was something completely different. And just to experience that level of bliss, it's like, oh, that exists. I know that level exists somewhere, and I just feel like I got a taste of it.
I wish everyone can experience that, because I think no matter what shape or look or whatever that people have, the first thing that people look for is what's not good enough. You know, the 6'3" guy is like, I wish I was 6'5". Yeah. Or the guy that's 12% body fat is like, I wish I was 10%. You know, like even the most beautiful person, it's like, oh, I wish my eyebrow was like this. And it's like, you'll never have,
eyebrows are big.
Yeah, you can never be perfect enough.
Yeah.
Right. But being able to like, how about like, let's put this in reverse. And how about let's just be extremely grateful and find beauty in what we have.
Wow.
You know, and just being at that bliss state with whatever you have, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. I definitely wouldn't have changed a thing. And even looking back on pictures from that week and that trip, and we stayed a couple extra days at an Airbnb just to kind of integrate everything before we headed back to airport and reality. Even just looking back on pictures of that and those days, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that glow. And it's such a bummer that I couldn't hang on to that forever. But it was one of those things that kind of just dwindled away. It wasn't like a quick off.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of less and less. And one of my favorite things about that week was they have the ceremonies at night, right? And then you have breakfast with everyone. Then there's usually like a yoga and a breathwork class. And then in the afternoon from like 1 to 3, there's an integration class. So everyone gets to share, if they want, their experience from the night before. And Matt and I quickly learned that we were people that were there with very little trauma in our lives. People are there to deal with some very heavy, heavy things, very dark things, rape, abuse, addiction, things like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we are very blessed and very grateful to, you know, have these childhoods that we did, and, you know, to be starting ahead maybe more than others in life. Like that's something we need to always keep in perspective and stay in a gratitude mindset about. Yeah. But all these integration classes were so wonderful because they're like, okay, here's what you experienced. What are the pieces of that you want to take home? What are the pieces of that you want to integrate into your normal life? How are you going to take this experience and not go back to your old habits, your old ways?
Super cool.
So it's not just here you're gonna trip all
night. See you later.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very helpful. And like we talked about that weed thing, are you using it to connect or disconnect? That was something that they brought up in one of those integration classes. So how are you going to use your experience to change your life? And some people are like, in ceremony last night, I realized that my calling is to open a bookshop. So I'm going to go home and open a bookshop.
Wow.
And people would have very direct downloads like that of like, I should be doing X and I'm not. So as soon as I get back, that's what
I'm doing.
And I'm going this route with my life. It's interesting the things that will show up that will be the same. So there's these things called celestial surgeons. And this is something Matt was really hoping to get and didn't. But they're like these little alien creatures that come to you and perform surgery on you.
Oh.
If you have some type of issue somewhere in your body, they can show up and remedy that.
Wow.
Or teach you maybe how to remedy it yourself, but are very real little aliens. And it's like a consistent thing that people will see. They're like, I got celestial surgeons last night. Someone else is like, yeah, so did I.
Wow.
Whoa.
So that's a thing Matt was really hoping that these guys would come and, you know, work on his hip, work on his knee, whatever. But the things that you see in common are very interesting. And you're in the jungle, right? So a lot of it is jungle based too. People will see leopards or, you know, panthers, snakes. Snakes is a common form that Mama Aya comes to people as. So it's so interesting hearing people's stories and getting to see like really, really, really vulnerable sides of people and everyone has some type of trauma or some type of baggage on some level that they're there to work on. And those 100 people that week, like they become your tribe. Like you learn their names, you eat all your meals with them, and they hug you when you're crying. And it's just this amazing community that develops over the week. And that was something that Matt and I really, really loved.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because we're like, man, we don't really feel like, because we're kind of just diving into this world and we're so in the strength and fitness and lifting, like we don't really know lots of people that are going this route, but having this group of people, we need more people like this.
Yeah.
We need more people that we can connect with on this level. We need more peers. And for us, that was kind of a stepping stone to like reaching out to more people like you guys, of like finding those peers, finding those people you can connect with, and really building a community and a tribe, a group of people that you really care about.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that was another important part of New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is it. I'm like, this feels kind of the same.
Cool.
And not that you're always searching for that feeling, but it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
It's a good feeling.
The reason why I wanted you to share this story is because I saw how transformative it was for you. Like, you were already such a confident person, and you were very kind, and I was doing my research. And you're just super supportive, like just a positive presence in your space, right? Your space, your community, and life. But then I remember you going through this, sharing your process, and it was like a different Bonnie.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. There's very much like a life pre-ceremony and a life after.
Yeah.
And I don't think you realize it the week of, but like looking back, you're like, oh, I'm so different. I'm not even close to that person I was going into that ceremony. I went in that highly skeptical, a highly atheist, and now I'm like, yeah.
Some shit's out there.
I very much think there's divine powers at play. I don't know to what extent, but yes, 100%. And yet it's one really interesting thing is that my taste in music changed completely.
Really?
I never went back.
What was your taste before?
Never went back. More like hardcore, punk, like alternative, more aggressive music.
When you say never going back, meaning like you don't choose that anymore, but also like the music that you grew up listening to in your childhood, does it still bring back the nostalgic feelings or no?
I don't really have any nostalgic music from my childhood.
Oh, okay.
Or like high school?
Yeah. It brings up those memories, and that's fine and good. I just don't feel called to listen to it. I never want to turn it on. And when I do, I'm like, oh, it's kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
Like I just want my vibey EDM, tribal, like lo-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
music.
heard the song you were playing, and I was like,
Bart, you got to hear this song.
and
I
I was
love
like,
it.
I was like, that song is sick.
Yeah.
But not to train.
And then I saw her to go lift to it. I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna do that.
Right. And
She's
it's
like,
been,
I'm a bench now.
yeah, I'm like, I feel pretty good.
You were really doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she
was
was
like,
feeling
I
it.
was like, don't leave yet. You got to hear this song. It's so good.
It's sick song. Like we
Yeah.
need to drive through Red Rock with the windows down. I'm like, that's what it makes me feel.
I'm like,
right?
this song is the desert.
But she was like, but this makes me want to bench.
Yeah. And it's, I just need it upbeat enough. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it's doing. As long as it's upbeat enough, then it's good. But it's happened for Matt too. He doesn't listen to
love it.
anything he was listening before.
Wow.
And like we both
Crazy.
just crave that.
I love
And
it.
that's been one really solid, like lasting change. And you don't realize how different you are until you really look back. And I'm like, oh man, me in 2018 was someone so different than I am now.
Yeah.
Oh, so different. But it's, I mean, we're given that freedom.
Yeah.
We're given that freedom to change and grow and develop. And that's what's so important and special about it.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you were so raw to share this experience and this story, because what I love and the people I love to be around, and this is the reason why I'm so motivated and inspired by you, and I fucking adore you, is the fact that you always dictate where your life is going.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the power behind that. At least people in that I've been around, right? My own personal experience, people just seem to kind of just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And
They kind of just float through life or let life happen to them.
yeah, you know, and I love that you share this to be like, hey, sometimes you don't know what you're doing, but you just got to jump in and figure it out when you're there. You know?
I also think it helps to know how many people don't feel like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that definitely
No one
helps.
knows.
People
what
are
they're
like,
doing.
what steps did you take to start your business? I'm like, well, I started seeing if people wanted to train with me. Like,
Yeah.
yo, that's it.
It
Dive
really is
in
that.
and figure it out.
Yeah. And I love that you are like, I just know I don't like it. And I'm going to change what I don't like. I don't know how, but I'm just one foot in front of the other is going to be different than me having both feet planted.
Yo, we're here for such an incredibly short amount of time. Why would you do anything you don't like?
Yeah. I mean, I'm barely trying to understand that.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the theory.
Yes.
I get it, right? But I don't think I've had, knock on wood, but I don't think I've had too many either life experiences or run-ins with things being so in my face that it's like it shakes me up or it shakes me to my core where it's like some shit's got to change. Like I understand the change and I've had heartbreak. I've had a bunch of shit happen where it forces me to change as a person and evolve, but not to the point where I'm like, oh shit, time is fucking ticking.
Yeah. And I had this conversation with Matt probably a couple of weeks ago, because he started his mentorship group and named it 1612. Did you guys hear the story?
Yeah, I love it.
Behind that. Okay. So for him, his moment was realizing, okay, this is how many weeks I have left to live. When his father passed away and Matt was 31 and he's like, oh shit, am I halfway?
Because his dad was 62.
Right, correct. Yeah. And so I was like, the other day I was like, oh, I get it. I'm like, I get why we get along so well. We both had those moments of really coming face to face with your mortality. And that is what shifts. That is what creates that next level of self-awareness. Because we're both like, oh shit, we gotta go. We gotta go, we gotta do, we gotta see. We have to do that right fucking now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is why we get along so well. I'm like, I never realized what that thing was.
Yeah.
But we both had that same attitude because we both had one of those moments in our lives. And mine, was when I was 26 and got that diagnosis, and his was when he was 31. And I'm like, man, I almost wish I would have got that diagnosis sooner, so I would have had that kick in the pants earlier in life. But obviously you can't look at things that way. But I was like, oh, I understand. We both are really, really aware of our mortality.
Yeah.
And have thought about death a lot. And how many people just avoid that subject and avoid thinking about it and avoid talking about it.
Yeah.
And, it's a bit taboo to talk about. And it's like, why?
Yeah, for certain
this is all
cultures,
one massive thing we share in common here in this American culture.
It's really bad.
Very taboo.
Yeah.
And as, someone that has lost his father and parents get old and they pass away and this is what happens. We need to talk about it more. It needs to be confronted. It needs to be these open conversations because this is all happening. I saw a meme the other day and I really, really liked it. And it was, it wasn't funny or anything, but it was still impactful. It was this isn't a joke. This is just good. It was this little dude and he's shedding his skin. And it just says, why be afraid of death when death is just taking off a shoe that's too tight? And I was like, oh my God, I love that. I love that so
Taking
much.
off a shoe that's too tight.
Yeah, this soul is coming out of this meat sack avatar shell, whatever.
And it's as effortless or as relieving as that.
As relieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm like, what a great way of looking at that. And a thing that kind of takes away some of that fear.
Yeah.
It's it's a reminder, but it's not a scary reminder.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
It does. It does make sense. It absolutely makes sense. But I mean, you never know how you're going to go out. And I think that's the part that some people might hold on to, AKA me.
Interesting. Yeah, the conversation we had yesterday.
Yeah, that sometimes I try not to think about it in that way. As you know, I try to be very, very positive. I try to find the silver lining in everything. So I don't ever dwell on shit like that. But it's not until we have these conversations that I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah, I can go out pretty fucked up. I hope not.
Yeah. And you can be positive and you can have that positivity and that hope, but still be realistic. We can't avoid this.
Yeah.
We're all just marching towards this, whether we like it or not.
Rich or poor, wherever you came from, fucking smart or stupid, we're all headed in the same direction.
Yeah. Time doesn't give a shit.
Yep.
Right? So I just think it's one of those things that should be discussed more and openly and without fear and being able to, feel really safe with the people you're talking about and be vulnerable and express these things. And it's just another taboo thing in our culture that we don't talk about amongst other things.
Yeah.
And that's been the game changer for me. It's coming face to face with that.
And I love how transparent you are with it. And I love and I'm so happy that you have a platform and that you share it and you use it for the betterment of society and for good and
The
women
lifting community
empowerment.
gets really confused when I start diving into spirituality.
Yeah, but I mean, that's cool. You know, like you're shifting
Yeah,
it all.
it's
because
totally
it went
fine.
from, I saw your Instagram change from like crazy meathead shit. Like, I could spend all day here, 5:46 in the gym. Oh, I'm never leaving. To now like getting more spiritual, trying to empower, like only you have the power to change it. Like, I love it.
I think it's cool too because it's traditionally you almost think it's mutually exclusive. You know, someone that's like science with the progressive overload, right? There's like that, and then when you think of like someone that's like, oh, it's more about the feeling. How do you feel? You're like, it's. But why does it have to be mutually exclusive? Why can't you be both?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think so many people are just obsessed with tying their identity to a single thing.
Yeah.
Like we were kind of talking about, like the athlete or the coach or whatever that may be. Like we're humans. We want to belong to a group. We want to have people around us that are doing the same thing and have the same passions and be a part of a tribe, whatever that thing is. But it's not a thing we have to do to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have to be in a tribe for protection and survival anymore. Yeah. We're not at that point in human history. So we can be these multifaceted creatures with different interests and different hobbies. And we don't have to just tie our identity to that single thing. And also tying your identity to a single thing that's based on your body and your physicality and your physical capabilities.
It's a bummer.
Yo, that's super dangerous.
Yeah. Because you're going to age. Or you can get injured.
I injured my back in 2018, and that was another big shift for me. Like, okay, I can't powerlift the way I want to. What am I besides an athlete?
You're like,
what am I besides a powerlifter? What else do I enjoy?
Yeah. You're like,
outside of the gym.
I'm going from conventional now to sumo? Fuck.
Yeah. Who can relate to that?
Such a meathead shit.
No one, right?
No, some people actually are that invested.
Dude.
But and when you've lived that identity for so long and put so much stock into that thing, it's a huge shift. And I've had clients, that whatever pops up and I'm like, all right, let's talk about this before this gets crazy and like mentally is really hard for you.
Oh, that's so good of you.
Because I've been through it. I know like that injury made me a better athlete, a better coach, a better friend, just probably a better person to be around. Yeah. Because I wasn't so obsessed with the gym. But like, okay, let's talk about this. What else do you enjoy besides the gym? What else are you besides an athlete? Or you're not sure? Let's figure that out.
And this is through your coaching. Your one-on-one clients.
Yeah, I've got one-on-one clients. They get all those kind of talks from me. But it's important. It's a thing that you need to know. What else are you besides a mom? What else are you besides a father? Like
there's a ton.
Yeah, and there should be. There should be. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
People want so desperately to be a thing and belong to a thing. Yeah. It's like, well, it's okay. Like it's okay. Give yourself a little grace.
Dude, I swear I could keep talking to you for fucking ever, but we have to wrap it up.
Okay.
But I'm so fucking grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for sharing your truth, your fucking stories, all of it.
It was a lot.
And I feel like it was just a tip, honestly.
It's just a tip.
It's literally just the tip of the iceberg. So we do want to bring you back on.
100%.
But where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Bonschro, BONSCHRO, and at bonschro.com.
Let's go. Thank you guys so much. This was such a cool episode. I adore this woman.
I love you. Look at you.
Bart, leave the room.
Can I just gush about Gio for a minute? Because she gave me this amazing introduction. She's 6 foot tall. Exotic.
Cut her mic.
Goddess.
Cut it. Cut her mic. But thank you so much. I hope you got an amazing takeaway from all these fucking beautiful gems that Bonnie just shared with everybody. Thank you. And we will see you next week. Mwah.
Bye-bye.